I'm surprised the police didn't find him for me.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that too. Okay.
This signals that the detective may already have knowledge regarding the murder weapon, and the police might even have it in their possession.
As you're getting stuff ready in the house, did you pick up any stuff, take anything out?
I just started that, yeah. Just bugging me.
This is the first time that there is a long pause prior to Isaiah responding. Long pauses are often associated with deception, especially if it's not typical of the person's speech patterns. When he finally gathers his thoughts, Isaiah states that he took his TV, knives, hydrocodone pills, and $9 from his grandparents after killing them. He goes on to describe what he did following the crime, which shockingly consisted of going to numerous parties with friends.
Are you wearing the same clothes that you were wearing Friday night?
Yes, sir.
So these are the same clothes that
Yes, sir.
you would shot Grandpa and Grandma?
That's in the impound.
Okay, well, are these the clothes that you were wearing when you shot your Grandpa and Grandma?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any blood on them?
From my finger.
Just joking.
Okay, what happened to your finger? Oh, from that. But I mean from your...
Oh, actually, I was
Was there
wearing
thunder and lightning?
sweatpants and no shirt when I shot him.
Okay. Where's
Because
the
I didn't
sweatpants?
want to get blood on these jeans or the
So
shirt.
it's not that.
Because they're nice jeans.
There's no blood on anything. I made sure
We
I
honestly
didn't
need
get
the
any
ring.
sort of DNA from either of them on me.
Okay.
This is a direct contradiction to his previous confession of kissing his grandparents after having shot them. If his claim of not wanting to get any blood or DNA on him is true, then he probably wouldn't have physically touched the victims.
Where did the blood go when you shot him?
Everywhere. Like blood. Everywhere. Chunks of... Like, the house is massive. And there was, like, points where it's like, here's the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's go to the kitchen 15 feet away. And there's a chunk of this big laying in there.
You go look at it?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I picked it up and I looked at it, and I could see it was from my grandma.
Didn't that freak you out a little bit? Kinda?
I was like, oh, well, I'm a psychotic murderer anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
But you're not psychotic. I know you're not psychotic.
People often think that any murderer is psychotic, when in actuality, psychotic refers to a specific set of symptoms which may or may not be present in a killer. Psychotic generally refers to psychosis, which involves someone losing touch with reality. A person with psychosis may have hallucinations or delusions and is unable to distinguish between real life and the world inside their head. Isaiah hasn't reported any symptoms of psychosis, and he appears to be well aware of what he did, both at the time of the murders and now. The detective likely wants to put on record that Isaiah understands he was not psychotic when he killed his grandparents, so that it can be presented as evidence when the case goes to court.
And here's one of the things too, I want to make sure this is a hundred percent. If you talk through these things, don't embellish anything. Okay? You gotta shoot me straight. Okay? I need to know. Okay? There's a different house. If you talk to me, it's not you snitching. You know what that is? It's you telling me.
Are they gonna get arrested?
I have no control over it.
Alright, let's put it like this. We're done. Yeah, I took that. But I didn't use it. It's going off 12 gauge.
Okay? What'd you do with that?
So, and then I gave the assault rifle to Brandon Aller, gave the TV to Brandon Aller.
So you didn't throw it? You didn't throw it over?
Nope. And then they transported it out of town.
Okay, how come they transported it out of
Because
town?
it was hot guns.
Did you tell them it was hot?
They knew I'd killed my grandparents. They came in the house right after it happened.
And why was Brandon even come to your house?
He wanted to steal the truck. The white truck.
Okay.
He wanted that white truck.
Did he talk to you about that?
Yep.
How did he talk to you about it?
He wanted to know where the title was. He wanted to know where everything was over my house.
Okay. And did he tell you that? I mean, had you told him that you killed your grandparents? Okay. And what did he say?
He was the one who gave me the nicotine poisoning suggestion.
I thought you said you got that over the internet.
It's possible that rather than protecting other people as he claimed, he left this part out of the story for self-serving reasons. He may have known that there was no explanation for people being in the house after the murders that would fit with his narrative to the detective about how he was immediately remorseful.
If somebody told you what to do, I need to know that. If you found on the internet, I need to know that. Don't mix those two up, okay? You gotta shoot straight with it.
He told me about all this, and I looked at him.
Okay, when did he tell you about it?
Same day, Friday.
On Friday? What did you tell him?
I told him I was planning on killing him, taking some, leaving. He was like, "You're gonna give me that assault rifle," and that saw it on.
Isaiah tells the detective that immediately after shooting his grandparents, he went to pick up Damien, a friend of his, before supposedly bringing him to the crime scene. That fact that Isaiah brought his friend over to the house after committing the brutal act is disturbing to say the least. Isaiah now tells the detective that he took a sawed-off shotgun, a knife, the rifle, the truck, all of his toiletries, the TV, and some clothes from the house. Afterward, he drove Damien back to the house of their friend, Brandon's girlfriends. Then another detective enters the room with food for Isaiah before the two make small talk.
Honestly, I wrote the 4.5 nights ago. This don't like kill the grandparents. And I was like, no, just deny it all. One of my friends called, and okay, but this girl sent me a picture of you squad and a bunch of cops. So I snapped it.
As they talk, Isaiah mentions something particularly tragic.
My mom doesn't even know what's going on right now. I'm worried about that. Sure.
It's understandable. It's your mom.
Yeah. She doesn't even know her parents are dead.
Oh, she doesn't know at all?
No, she doesn't know her parents.
When was the last time you talked to her?
Probably 2-3 hours before I snapped my phone, I called her.
Okay.
She was pretty much the only person I didn't tell the real story.
Okay.
I told her out. And a few of my friends, I was like, oh, I sold a truck. So she got over. Oh, I killed my grandparents.
Isaiah's story seemed to be rather jumbled, but this could be out of anxiety from the interrogation, or the fact that he knows he is caught and there's no way out at this point. When the first detective enters the room again, he begins to question Isaiah's tale regarding his apprehension.
Why you run from the cops? What do you think?
One of my friends at CR told me that they were going to handle me extremely roughly. I did what I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get tased.
Sure. Why didn't you get shot?
So then I went out.
Okay. Why didn't you run?
It was too hard. It just didn't work. After it just didn't work. After.
Okay.
I just think God wants me for something.
Okay. Why do you think that it was okay to shoot your grandparents but not yourself? I mean, that's a tough question to ask, right? I know it's a sign.
However, his claim about wanting to get shot is incongruent with his behavior of coming forward with his hands up when he was surrounded by police. Isaiah may be once again looking for sympathy from the detective by saying that he wanted them to kill him. Despite Isaiah's confession of his actions before, during, and after the shootings, he still has yet to state exactly why he killed his grandparents.
Did you look outside to see if...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how come? Why, why'd you look outside?
Because I wanted... Well, I took a shower and packed everything up. I wanted to make sure no neighbors like call the cops. Holy sh!
Did you check yourself to see if you got any blood on you or anything?
I had nothing on me.
Nothing? I mean, did you look
I was far,
near?
yeah, I was far enough away to a point where nothing, like, all the stuff went, they all went that way, and I was this way.
Okay.
I don't get
I mean, there's probably some traces of guts and brains on my feet, and I kept stepping on people.
What were you, were you barefoot when you shot him? Okay. And you haven't washed your feet or anything since then? Okay.
Well, no, I did take a shower. My therapist scratched that.
This negates Isaiah's previous statement that he took a shower at his house immediately after the shooting, and is yet another hiccup in his story. He goes on to explain how his therapist, Candace, is his aggression replacement therapy teacher, and is one of the few responsible adults in his life, if not the only one. Later, however, exactly how Isaiah arrived at her home following the crime will be uncovered, and it only goes to show that wherever Isaiah was, trouble wasn't too far behind.
What's aggression replacement treatment?
How not to do stupid shit that gets people besides me hurt. Like
Okay.
how not to hurt people around.
And I get 10.
Okay.
I had passed the class the week this happened.
You've been doing pretty good in the class?
You're gonna
Good.
get fucking
Okay.
shot.
Isaiah states that he took the rifle, 12-gauge shotgun, and TV to Brandon's apartment in Cambridge, where the friend was allegedly going to buy the guns. Supposedly, Isaiah was never compensated. As a result of Brandon's involvement, Isaiah has some concerns.
I know they're probably going to be in jail for a while for this. Are they going to go to the same
Great!
building as me?
They're filming for the new Vanguard Force movie, and the star Frankie Raymond was asking around
I
for
have
you.
no idea.
I still don't
That's
think the
not
two of you
reindeer.
look anything
Yeah, I
alike,
told you we
but
were talking
Frankie
to
really
friends.
seems
What'd
to
you
need your
ask?
help.
What'd you talk about?
We're trying to find you.
Where did they say I
Where you
was?
were at, and you know you. So, did they know where you were at? Yeah. The whole time?
Oh yeah, I was in contact with them every single day.
Okay, with what?
My phone.
The detective informs Isaiah that he is well aware that the teenager's cell phone had abruptly been shut off during the course of events on Sunday, May 13th. But he wants to hear from Isaiah just how that came to happen.
One of my friends sent me a picture of the crime scene and told me I killed my grandparents, so I snapped my phone in half so they couldn't trace it.
Okay.
I'm
So
not
how
a
do you
smart
do?
person.
I know you're not. No, you're
I'm
not.
a very smart
Turn
person.
around.
You are.
I've got a criminal mind.
Okay.
I do.
This is likely a sign of narcissism, as Isaiah may see himself as superior and more clever than other people. And once again, the detective portrays a sense of admiration, which is likely to play into Isaiah's narcissism and keep him talking.
Built that way? So when you say you're talking to these guys, when you're kind of on the run, before you broke your phone, are you texting them? Are you communicating with them on Facebook? What do you do?
Texting, calling.
Okay. You got any access to the internet on your phone?
It was a flip phone. I was tweeting a storm up though, and I think I updated my Facebook stats a couple times through like you can text it to Facebook.
Oh, okay. What were you updating on your Facebook?
I don't know what was on Facebook, but I know I was tweeting a bunch of random. This old black dude said that was really high, and I thought it was hilarious.
Isaiah did in fact contact his friends following the murders, even confessing to one of them his additional crime of theft, texting a stolen Chevy Avalanche. Ciao. His friend's response, a simple LOL, followed by Isaiah's chilling return. I'm nuts. Along with this, Isaiah began to post
arrived at your
alarming
destination.
statements on Twitter, starting on May 11th, the same day of the murders. Isaiah stated, "No excuses, no apologies," followed by, "I'm dying." But his next quote was even more horrifying,
Wow.
as it was posted
It's
around
like
the same
looking in
time
a
as the
mirror,
violent shooting was
right?
committed.
I mean,
At
the
12:10
perfect
a.m.
stunt
on
double is an
Saturday, May
identical
12th,
twin.
he wrote,
You said you
"Time to
wanted some
live my
driver
life."
lessons.
The
Get in.
detective
Let's
switches
go.
gears by inquiring about Isaiah's run-in with law enforcement on the early morning of Sunday,
This is
May
the
13th. You'll recall that this was the day Rick and Janet's bodies were found, 2 days after they were shot.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Apparently, Isaiah had been driving two girls around Iowa City in the previous hours, making several appearances at nearby parties. As the night was coming to a close, they stopped at the fast break convenience store located on Naples Avenue, and someone in the group allegedly tried to open the locked doors of the business, thereby issuing an alarm trigger. When police arrived, Isaiah and his passenger supposedly denied any involvement, but police would later claim they were indeed lying. Not only that, but Isaiah failed to provide a valid license, as his was previously suspended for an unknown reason. In an attempt to cooperate, the passengers allegedly notified the officers that Isaiah was hiding drugs in a duffel bag within the vehicle, along with a hunting knife. But Isaiah denied permission for law enforcement to search his truck, and instead told them that he had various drugs stashed away. Isaiah was quickly taken into police custody, where he was discovered that he launched another string of abnormal tweets. At 6 a.m. on Sunday, May 13th, he posted, "Damn, can't wait to get out of the cop shop. Hashtag 6 unnecessary hours." Numerous others are too explicit to read, but nonetheless, Isaiah was not afraid to say what was on his mind. As he tweeted away on his phone at the
We've
police
already
station,
started filming.
officers notified
It's
Isaiah that he
hopeless.
could only be
I'll never
released upon
impress
the
Victor
authorization of a
Garcia
legal
Hernandez as a
guardian,
driver
since
or
he was
legitimate
underage.
directing actor.
The teenager swiftly
Actually, I
realized
have an
that this
idea.
was a massive
Since,
issue, as
you
his
know,
two legal
there's a
guardians
bit of
were,
resemblance
thanks to
here.
his doing,
What if we
no
don't tell
longer
anyone
alive. According to him, he lied and told law enforcement that his grandparents had been in Minnesota on a fishing trip and had limited cell phone service, but they would be able to get in contact with his mother. Sure enough, Stacy allowed Isaiah to be released and handed over to his therapist, Candace, where Isaiah supposedly ate sausage, eggs, and hash browns and took a shower. Not too long after his short-term stay at her house, Candace seemed to find a shocking object within her residence and thought that it may have belonged to her patient, Isaiah. Immediately, she contacted the local authorities without his knowledge.
Let me ask you this, is we got a call from her today. Was there any reason that there was a .40 caliber round that was found up there? Nothing? Did you have a handgun on you at all?
No, sir.
No .40 caliber
You
round?
can lie detect me for that. No, sir.
Okay, so .40 caliber round that would have been found up there
Where was it found?
in her house.
Really? No, sir.
Not from you?
No, sir.
Okay.
You should
200 meters. Turn right.
Although the .40 caliber round was identified at Candace's home, it has never been confirmed as to who it belonged to. Isaiah states that his stay at his therapist's house lasted a mere hour and a half before she supposedly drove him back to the Cambridge apartments, where he met up with a girl named Alicia.
Did anybody even try to go to my phone records?
That's one
Couldn't
of the
agree
things that
more.
we are
I'll tell Alec
commonly
the
do.
Titan is a go.
Did we try and get phone
Can't believe I'm
records?
saying this,
And
but
everything. If you
That's a bit more
have
like a big
murder
goal for
charges
Horizon
or
Wales.
something, felony
You did
like
it.
that, you can get phone records like that.
Yeah, how do you know that?
I love
I
it.
know, but how do you know that? I mean, you researching it?
I
just got word that you've approved construction on the Titan. This will be fun. See you there.
Isaiah appears to possess several narcissistic traits, such as being egotistical and having a grandiose sense of self. He views himself as a very smart criminal, which is incredibly ironic given that he was arrested so soon after the crime and is currently being interrogated.
Let me look back at my notes here and make sure I'm not missing.
If you want, I can tell you if you miss it.
I bet you could.
It's possible that Isaiah is once again implying that he thinks he's smarter than the detective and could more easily find any mistakes. He's also likely very curious about what the detective has been writing down about him. But of course, the detective does not allow this to happen.
So who all do you think you told about them?
Brandon? He told me everything.
Before or afterwards?
I don't know when he started texting people, but
Okay.
I got so many goddamn phone calls about, oh, did you kill your grandparents? I heard you killed your grandparents.
Give a lot of hand
I started freaking out.
When they took you into custody down there when they finally got you, did you say you were proud of what you did?
It could be a red flag for deception that Isaiah's way of responding has changed from talking at a normal volume to suddenly shaking his head rapidly and responding quite softly.
Okay, we heard that you said, hey, I'm proud of what I did and, I got what's coming to me.
No, when I said when I got out of the car, I thanked them for apprehension.
Okay.
Calculating.
And that they did their job right. I thanked them for not taking my car.
Okay. Okay. Somebody told us that you... And then not that this
Must
one...
have heard me wrong. I actually did.
In
thank
400
them.
meters,
Okay.
turn right.
I respect them a lot for what they did.
Okay, and did you say, hey, dude, I know
And
what I got?
I deserve what I got. I deserve what I got.
Okay.
Thank them for apprehension.
Because you understand what you did with your grandparents, okay? There wasn't anybody else that did it. It was you, right? There was nobody else in that house with you, okay?
The detective has been concealing a rather large piece of information that goes to show that the killer teen had not been completely honest so far.
Essentially at the end of the day, and I was going
In
to show you a
400
picture of
meters,
the gun.
turn right.
Would that be the gun? It's kind of a dark picture.
Yes, it is. How'd you know?
In the left? Is that the gun that you used?
You guys have a spare part.
You said earlier that you're pretty smart. We're pretty smart at what we do.
Right, you can do more. All your straight my phone calls and my text messages figured out right.
Clean it up with the That's done.
Prior to the shooting, Brandon had offered advice to Isaiah on how to use the rifle, which ultimately ended the lives of Chad and Rick. Additionally, the pair discussed other ways to kill the victims. The morning of May 13th, Isaiah told Brandon that he could break into his grandparents' home and take whatever he wanted. When Brandon arrived, he snuck into the home, but supposedly left in a hurry and didn't notify the local authorities as he was allegedly nervous about the situation. Brandon eventually sold the rifle to another friend, but the gun was turned over to the police once the bodies were discovered. Still, the question of why has yet to be answered, but as Isaiah reveals what drove him to commit the ultimate crime, he loses all control.
I don't know what built up, but yeah, I've just had so much stress. Like what? My grandma died. I can't see my grandpa talking. He's just every night of my life, every day. He constantly told me to just let go and fall off here. They treated me like I tried so hard to help my grandma with everything. But my grandma made everything so hard because he'd always stress me out. Pain me for no reason. I didn't know what to do anymore, so I just snapped. Shot one of them and stole the truck.
Okay.
If Isaiah's claims are true, this type of long-term verbal and emotional abuse from his grandpa would have been extremely damaging. However, it's important to keep in mind that he could be lying in order to provide a justification for his actions. After all, he doesn't say that his grandma was abusive, and he still killed her as well. We also cannot verify any of these claims.
Why did you shoot Grandpa first? Why?
He used to make my life worse now.
Okay. How long had you been thinking about doing this?
That one day.
That one day?
That one day.
Okay. Nothing before is
Oh, I thought, but I never really made a plan.
okay. When you say thought, what kind of things are you?
I wanted to kill my grandma, but I never wanted to hurt my grandma. It's just I could have just left it.
Isaiah's legs are shaking, possibly from the anxiety of being questioned or reliving the trauma of committing a violent crime. If he had previously been a danger to himself as he claims, this could also be the cause of his notable trepidation.
Okay. Did he see it coming? I mean, where was
He
he?
was so drunk and high on his oxycontin and hydrocodone,
Okay.
and he didn't know where.
Let me do this if I can. If you're
I
stand
got
up
a
real
wheels
quick.
thing. Let's see what I got.
If I'm your grandpa sitting over on the couch like here, are we this close?
What do you know? Instead of 2 cars, I could have gotten 2 cars.
Kind
I
of
got
down like that.
$1,000 one.
I was right about here.
Looks like it's nice.
Okay, so is he hunched over? Is he asleep?
Yeah, well, no, he's just out of it on his drugs. Yeah, he was hunching over like, well, I was on the 4th or 5th stair down first, so I could see his hair from there. So when I took
Turn around.
I took one
What did you
step
say
up,
to
one
do,
stair up, so I could see his whole head shot.
Where's the first shot hit?
First shot, straight through his head.
Right here?
Right temple.
Okay. Well, right temple?
No, like right in the temple.
Or right in the temple? Okay, and what did he do?
Smashed his face off. Smacked his face off the coffee table.
So when you're coming up the stairs, did you kind of sneak up the stairs a little bit?
I was like,
Get on saucer.
How come?
but I didn't know where
Arrived at your destination.
Okay.
And then, like, as soon as
And where's Grandma?
I took this step right here, Grandma would be like 3 feet to the side
That
of you.
way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I went,
Motherfucker.
stepped up the first stair, took the shot, stepped up the second stair, took 2 more shots.
Hey, Grandma?
By demonstrating how the killings occurred, the detective is solidifying the fact that this shooting was not in self-defense or in any way provoked by his grandparents.
Grandma treated me terribly. Nobody would ever believe it. He's insulted me before. He's done so many different things wrong to me.
Okay. But he didn't do anything to you that night.
And it's just, I could never report any of it. Because my grandma would always vouch for it, make me look like a bad one. Like, he'd smoke pot with me, and I'd tell him the cops, and he'd just be like, nope, never happened.
Notice that Isaiah's hands are palm up as he talks, which is known as the rogatory position. When someone holds their hands in this way, they may be pleading with the other person to believe what they're saying. The rogatory position indicates low confidence, so if someone makes a statement that they know for a fact is true, their body language should reflect high confidence.
When I got busted for paraphernalia and when I got put on probation, that was his fight. I tried so many times to tell the cops that, but they were like, it's in your room, and I was just like, it exists though.
The detective handles a question raised by Isaiah that is sure to come as a complete surprise.
Has their funerals been held yet?
No, I don't think they have, Isaiah. I haven't heard
Would there
it.
be any way I'd be able to go to them?
That I couldn't tell you. And I'll tell you, since you're shooting straight with me, I doubt it. Okay? I don't know. I don't make that call.
Well, I don't want my family to kill me anyways.
Okay.
Although we are able to hear from Isaiah throughout the interrogation, he spoke with us in an exclusive, never-before-heard interview where he expanded on the alleged abuse and gave us a deeper look into what he now believes led to that fateful day.
There wasn't any, like, in my head, there wasn't any make it to easy. I've gotten shot twice before I was 17. I didn't think I was going to be around it. That wasn't a thought. I had no regard for my life whatsoever. Everything I did was so obviously a cry for help that it didn't make sense. And nothing good happened. Nobody tried to help them. So in my head, I was like, all right, I'm on my own, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, like, what do I do? And then once I'm on house arrest, like, you can't even get away from the problem at this point. So, how do you eliminate the problem? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that other people failing me throughout my life is the reason I did it. At the end of the day, I'm the reason I did it. I chose to do what I did. But a lot of things could have happened if I would have had options.
Isaiah explains the alleged abuse that he endured at the hands of Rick and Janet.
Do we have those kind of interactions where I'm like, hey, like they call the cops, and I'd be like, he literally just hit me, and I defended myself. What am I supposed to do? Or, like, he had a bunch of plants in the backyard, and they knew about it, and they were like, oh, that's just ditch. Just leave that alone. They just pulled the plants and left them alone. And there was a few occasions where I was like, okay, he assaulted me, like literally. And my grandma was like, no, it didn't happen that way. He hit him first. And they're like, well, if you press charges, you're both going to go to jail because they both say that you did it first. And it's their word against yours. No one's going to listen to a dumb kid. Who cares about the kid, right? It doesn't matter if a 15-year-old getting his ass kicked. That's irrelevant.
His claims about his feelings toward his grandmother seem to be ever-changing. During this particular account, it seems he's placing at least some of the blame on her, which is in contrast to his statements during his interrogation.
I wanted to kill my grandpa, but I never wanted to hurt
Don't give me pee-pee munchers, please.
She was a mega enabler.
The Titan! Right, let's get out there and finish this cross-country program with a
She
bang.
was the one that was doing a lot of the screaming, and like she'd always back him up. And like, great example, I attempted. I was like, I don't believe me. I wish you would have just ended up, making it worse. It would have been a lot. I'm not saying situations like that.
Well, I don't want to just tell my story because it'll help me get out. Because obviously I know that. That's one of the first thoughts. But the first thought, the initial thought is this can help a lot of kids. Like if some kid that's 16 years old and getting his ass beat hears me talk about it and how it feels to be alone, and it helps them, and they actually go and talk to somebody about it, and that's worth telling my story. That's worth me living all for. Like the biggest thing I want to do with my life, I want to be an advocate for at-risk youth because I feel like if somebody would have just talked to me and really understood what I'm going through and been like, hey, I get that, like, that you're okay, like you're not by yourself, I think that probably would have changed a lot because the hardest part about it was feeling like I was alone.
Today, Isaiah has seemingly found a new path, even accomplishing some rehabilitative programming, along with achieving his career readiness certificate. His co-conspirator, Brandon Allers, took a plea agreement to testify against Isaiah and was sentenced to 18 years in prison for his part in the horrific murders. This story doesn't end here, though. When police were finally able to search the grandparents' home, they allegedly found numerous internet searches on one of the computers, locating various methods on how to kill someone. In another sickening find, according to news sources, authorities supposedly uncovered inappropriate photos of children. The pictures were allegedly found under the grandfather's account, but nothing else has ever been revealed about the horrendous discovery. During Isaiah's trial, a clinical psychologist testified that during the time period of the crime, Isaiah possessed the emotional maturity of a 12 to 14-year-old. But this did not stop the killer from facing the inevitable consequences. Initially, Isaiah was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But in an unexpected turn of events, the judgment was overturned. After 4 years behind bars, Isaiah was resentenced to life in prison with a chance at parole, without a minimum incarceration time. This means that there is no telling when or if he will be released.
Empower your students to be more authentic, impactful writers with Grammarly's comprehensive AI writing assistance. Use it to help students brainstorm ideas faster. Document the writing process. Check for plagiarism and AI-generated text. Get real-time feedback. And much more. It's not just a grammar tool. It's a responsible AI writing assistant for the new era of communication. Download Grammarly for free today.
I just realized on Wikipedia that the word they use for me is homicidal maniac, but that's the correct term, right?
It was one of the most brutal killing sprees in all of Maine's history, sending shockwaves through the small town of Amity. Fortunately, and to the relief of the townspeople, it wasn't long before a suspect in the triple homicide was apprehended. However, the motive they gave behind the killings is one of the most bizarre and unbelievable, leaving investigators questioning how much was fact and how much was twisted fiction. Entangled amongst the killer's countless outrageous statements is the remaining question. Was it a revenge slaying, so-called vigilante justice, or a senseless crime carried out by a cold-blooded murderer who just wanted to know what it was like to kill? Referring to Amity, Maine as a tiny town is a bit of an understatement. There were only 238 residents back in 2010, and with the savagely brutal killings, the count was further reduced by 3 on the night of June 22nd. With one crime, Amity's innocence had been stolen, and things would never be the same. On June 23rd, 30-year-old Jason DeHaan's brother became worried when he hadn't returned home from his friend, 55-year-old Jeff Ryan's house, where he had spent the previous evening. He decided to go to Jeff's house himself. At first, there was no sign of either of them. That is, until he used a flashlight to look through the window of Jeff's mobile home. He caught sight of a large amount of blood and immediately called his father, Robert DeHaan, to inform him of the shocking discovery. Robert soon arrived, and together the two men made their way inside. The home was hauntingly still. At first glance, it appeared that no one was there. Robert made his way to one of the bedrooms, and that was where he encountered the first horrific sight. Jeff's 10-year-old son, Jesse Ryan, was clearly deceased, lying on the floor of the bedroom, and it was immediately apparent that the little boy's last moments had been horrific. At this point, the men notified authorities. Maine State Police troopers soon responded, and it wasn't long before the other 2 victims were located nearby. Jeff's body was found in the shed on the property, and they found Jason's mutilated body had been abandoned at the end of the driveway. Initially, Jeff's truck apparently to destroy any evidence the assailant had left behind. The whole situation was impossible to swallow. Initially, it appeared to have been a random ambush. There was no other explanation as to how these individuals had been chosen. For the first time, the town lived in fear. A homicidal maniac was on the loose, potentially roaming the streets, preparing to attack again. It was imperative that the killer be found immediately before any additional lives could be taken. A wealth of evidence was gathered from the crime scene. Amongst the items collected were beer bottles and cigarette butts, as well as fingerprints, and most importantly, the DNA profile of an unknown male was found. While a variety of law enforcement agencies were hard at work on the case, an elderly couple, Robert Bob Stroud and Joy Stroud, sat for an interview with a local newspaper. The pair had connections with one of the victims, Jeff Ryan. Bob and Joy's daughter, Tamara Stroud, had a teenage daughter with Jeff. Their granddaughter had just lost her father, and though I didn't initially see there was any other connection to the ongoing case, one would soon emerge. Detectives conducted numerous interviews, which eventually revealed someone had been staying with Bob and Joy Stroud for a few weeks, including at the time of the killings, a young man by the name of Thane Orsby. You see, Thane's mother was good friends with the Stroud's daughter, and Thane moved in with the couple to help them around the house, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of their pheasants and other birds. Since he was at the Stroud's home at the time of the killings, police believed that Thane could have witnessed something potentially helpful for the case. The thing was, at the time of the investigation, Thane was no longer living with Bob and Joy.
So,
luckily, the couple knew exactly where he was. Thane had made a recent move to Dover in Maine's neighboring state of New
I looked away
Hampshire.
for 2 seconds.
There he was now living with Bob and Joy's son, which made tracking him down even easier for detectives. Maine State Police detectives spoke to Thane at the residence on June 29, 1 week after the killings, and asked him a few questions. At the time, Thane agreed to provide his fingerprints and a sample of his DNA during the course of the meeting. On July 2nd, the detectives returned to the residence where Thane was staying. They asked if he'd be willing to speak with them at a Dover, New Hampshire police station, and he obliged. They had a feeling he knew more than he'd originally let on, though he was being cooperative so far. With that, the interview gets underway. The majority of the following interrogation footage has never been seen before.
But you know the family better than anybody, right?
I don't know that I know anyone.
You know better than I do. Listen, you know, no, we talk to a lot of people, you know, we talk to Tamara, obviously, Robin.
You might recall that Tamara is the daughter of Bob and Joy Stroud. Mariah is the daughter of Tamara and Jeff Ryan, one of the murder victims.
Then I talked to Tanya.
Note that Tanya is another daughter of Bob and Joy. She actually holds a significant place in this story, because the interview the detective has just referred to was precisely how they learned that Thane had been staying with Bob and Joy for the past few weeks, prior to his recent move to New Hampshire.
She's a piece of work. You know?
Oh, yeah.
She thought I was this cat's ass. She thinks you're gorgeous, by the way.
I know.
Oh, really?
You'll notice right off the bat that Thane really is a piece of
How
work.
can you not
For
run
lack of a better
cross-country
way to
racing?
describe
You
him.
have such nice-looking
However, the
countries to
detectives
cross.
are savvy. Don't let their unassuming demeanors fool you.
Oh,
It's
another
all
real
an act to
thing,
get
right?
Thane to talk. And talk he does.
Man,
You
it's
know,
so
like you
fucking
make-
nothing.
Feeling peckish, Helen Mirren ordered her
Give you
morning
the smell as well.
breakfast. Oh, Helen, you're narrating.
Give everyone a
She
shot.
narrated. Oh, shut up. Helen ate her melon. Oh, come on. Narrating and rhyming now? How lowbrow.
Febreze. When you host, your bathroom can feel like a revolving door. Keep things fresh with Febreze Bathroom. No batteries, no outlets needed. This air freshener fights odors for 45 days. So even after every flush, you know your bathroom smells amazing. Pair with Charmin toilet paper.
You feel old, because I've been in this criminal division here for 20 years.
Yeah.
You're 20.
And I'm
so, oh, what? You don't want
You've
one?
been working this. I hope I didn't mix these up.
Yeah, where's yours?
No, I made that. I'll be going to the bathroom in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They continue the small talk and keep the conversation lighthearted. Have faith, though. There's a method behind this madness.
He's Dale Keegan, and you're Adam Stoudemeyer. Adam Stoudemeyer. Yeah. You're from New Hampshire. Kittery.
Yeah, oh, practically. Yeah. Actually, you say that. I was born at the hospital in Portsmouth, so.
Okay.
The detectives continue to build rapport because they know that pushing too quickly could cause Thane to stop talking or ask for a lawyer. Clearly, though, Thane is enjoying the conversation. Or maybe it's just the sound of his own voice or being the center of attention. They touch on a variety of subjects, and Thane has a lot to contribute.
And what really went wrong is I got engaged. That's what went wrong.
Who'd you get engaged to?
Cindy Courier. She left me for my best friend. 2 weeks before the wedding.
This particular tangent, like each of the others thus far, is completely unrelated to the reason for this meeting. Though it may not appear so, the interview is off to an excellent start. The detectives did their homework, and they obviously know what makes Thane tick, how he views himself, and how he wants others to view him. This helps them determine the best way to approach him, and will hopefully cause him to let his guard down and reveal the truth. An intriguing question soon makes its way into the conversation as they continue this little session of getting to know one another.
What person in your life do you think you most respect?
Person in my life? Living person?
Yeah, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Andrew Beardsley.
Who's that?
He was my coach, mentor, I consider him, and literature teacher in high school. And he's the nephew to Bill Beardsley, who's just running for governor.
Okay, I was wondering if there was
a connection with Husson College. He did his college thesis on Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
He taught a class on Tolkien. I took a class on Tolkien. I love
Get
Lord
in
of the
this
Rings. Somewhere really in the heart of the Hobbit's my favorite book.
Thane shows us a bit of his scholarly side here.
I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. You watch that?
Yeah.
Zero.
Well, there's this
Is
movie.
that the one with Precious, the little Precious? That guy, yeah.
Yeah, that
Gotta go on. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the other show there.
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
No.
Not reading.
Different.
And the detectives continue to let him talk. They feed his ego as they play up his intellect and downplay their own. After sufficient time has been invested in efforts to build a strong rapport, the detective cuts to the chase and the moment this has all been building towards. He confronts Thane with a direct question.
So what about this case here? We'll start about the beginning here. What type of person do you think would do this?
No, I haven't given that much thought.
Yet if a serious crime happens in a small town to people you know, and as a result you're sitting in an interrogation room, it's hard to believe you haven't given it a lot of thought. Though he isn't really showing it, Thane is likely feeling some level of stress, which would be normal given the circumstances. His hands have been touching since he entered the room, and while it's possible this is simply a comfortable and a typical position for him, it may be a self-soothing behavior due to feelings of stress.
Someone would have to be cold, greedy maybe, I don't know. Someone would have to be just heartless. I mean, I never met his son, Mariah's little brother, but who could do that?
Well, you never know. I mean, the biggest thing that we don't understand is reasons. I mean, there's a reason for everything, you know, and mistakes happen. And that's why even a computer has a delete key, you know.
Right.
Mistakes happen. Wrong place, wrong time, panic, self-defense, who knows? Are you well aware of the Constitution and all that stuff, right?
Well
Aware of the Constitution, your rights and all that stuff. Do you understand you're not under arrest?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. If you ever want to leave, you just tell me. All right, all I ask is you don't be rude about it. Just things
I mean,
that-
I'd be a little bit shocked if I were under arrest, to tell you the truth.
So would I. But, so,
And I'm here to cooperate.
well, that's right. That's right. But and I appreciate that. I know you know your rights and all that stuff. One of the formalities that we have to do is to
Tell me.
read your rights. Okay. You can probably recite it better than I can.
I don't know that I could recite it.
Right. Did you understand it though?
The detectives intentionally downplay the formalities, and Thane seems to think he has this one in the bag. We're about to see, however, that this definitely isn't the case. After the short detour for Miranda warnings, the detective picks right back up where he left off.
Looking for a smarter way to mop? Try the Swiffer Power Mop. An all-in-one cleaning tool with a 360-degree swivel head that goes places a regular mop just can't. Swiffer Power Mop. Love it or your money back.
Some like them toasted. Eat them how you like them.
Pop-Tart. Crazy!
Formalities, right?
Right.
So, where were we? We're talking about what type of person would do that. You said cold, greedy, heartless.
Someone just with no love for life, no love for things that grow. And I mean, what we know about Tolkien and Tolkien's writing, you seem like you know a little bit more about Tolkien. It's, his main themes are hope and hopelessness and a love for things that grow.
Interesting. And this brings us to the next question, as the detective once again pulls Thane back in from his most recent departure from the topic.
What should happen to the person when we find?
What should happen?
When we find the bad guy, what should happen?
Well, I imagine you're going to read him his rights, formality,
right,
and lock him away.
You think he should go to jail?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, unless there's a good reason. Can you think of any good reason something like this could happen?
A good reason?
Yeah. Do you think of any reason? I mean, again, we don't understand reasons. You know, just because they did something like this doesn't mean you gotta go to jail for all your life, you know? But just, can you think of any good reason for something like this to happen?
I cannot think of any good reason something like that could happen.
So far, he isn't able to provide a reason. Not yet, at least. The detective travels back several years and inquires about an event that seems to have had a profoundly negative impact on Thane.
You lived with Uncle Steve. You were at Uncle Steve's through the high school years?
That's right.
Okay. So obviously things were not going good with
From age 12 up to age 17.
Anything significant happened at age 12 that make you want to move out from to go with Uncle Steve?
Well,
Anything
it wasn't a
significant?
choice. It wasn't a matter of DHHS or DHS.
He claims that he was allegedly abused by his mother, which resulted in him being removed from her care at age 12 and into his uncle's home until he was 17. It's possible that Thane is exaggerating or even fabricating this history of alleged abuse as a ploy for sympathy. The detectives touch on high school and how that ended for Thane. This may be a sore subject, considering his inflated view of his high level of intelligence.
So you graduated in 08?
Class of 08.
Yeah. Then you graduated from Alfred High School? Why? What happened there?
That's a long story, Jim.
I mean, you got plenty of time with coffee and even candy bars if you want.
Okay. Senior year rolls around. I've got my car, my license, and almost all of my credits.
By the way, all
You've
I'm
likely
doing now is
noticed by
spending all
now
my
that
money
Thane's
on
word usage is atypical. Because he didn't finish high school, perhaps Thane is trying to make up for it by using a higher level vocabulary to appear as smart or smarter than the detectives.
Ellsworth was a school system that changed their systems, treated us like guinea pigs, and treated us like we were in prison cells.
If what Thane is saying has any truth to it, you'd think he'd make every effort possible to avoid ending up in a prison cell. Bear in mind, though it's not always the case, a troubled childhood can lead to legal issues later on in life.
You know, I started partying. That was my whole party phase. It pretty much started and ended at 17. Really, did some stupid stuff.
What was the stupidest thing if you did?
Stupid.
Even if you didn't get caught, stupid.
Oh no, I got caught. And I always get caught.
You always get caught.
Oh yeah. It's the weirdest thing. Anything I ever do, there's always someone looking, you know? And it's just like, will I do anything wrong? Yeah.
This is an interesting question here. Needless to say, detectives can see past this facade.
We stole a gun from my friend's house. This same Michael, who is now marrying my ex-fiancée in the same very church that we were getting married in.
So it looks like quick.
What had happened is I turned myself in.
See what looks better.
I found out the police were looking for me. I said, walked right in and said, I'm the next thing on the speed. Here to turn myself.
What did you get for money?
Beautiful.
Probation.
Probably not to do it again.
Switch cars.
Well, I mean, I was underage, and it was my first offense.
Thane is trying to appear as if he was a criminal during that short-lived phase, but quickly returned to his law-abiding ways. Turning himself in, as he just alleged, was likely a self-serving behavior, possibly to receive a lesser punishment, rather than because he was truly remorseful for his actions. This appears to be an attempt to self-promote and make himself seem like he does the right thing. He likely told the detective this story in an attempt to control how they see him. If he's honest about this story, he may believe that he will then appear like he's always honest. After this most recent digression, the detective refocuses the conversation, and as you'll see, Thane's demeanor changes significantly. Maybe it's because this topic makes him uncomfortable.
Okay, let's talk about how you met Jeff.
He came over to Bob and Joyce.
Okay, do you remember when that was?
Early, when I got there, a couple days after I got there.
Thane's posture changes here. He's...
How am I already underwater?
I'm in the same boat.
I'm in an actual boat. Because I've been using Grammarly's AI for years to keep me high and dry. Try it. Grammarly can point out what's missing. Right there. The CEO will want to see a deadline.
Oh.
And here you should connect the projections back to company strategy.
Yeah. Mia, can you do a deep dive?
On it. 10% higher revenue by next year.
I'm sending it in.
Budget and headcounts are approved!
Download Grammarly for free.
I need to say something.
Okay.
The cantaloupe. They got a knock on it lately.
Yeah, totally. Done. I also do that.
Slouched and leaning forward now, appearing tense and concerned, where before he appeared casual and calm. A change in demeanor such as this could be a sign of deception. You might think that he needs to look the detective in the eye in order to sound truthful.
And tell me about that conversation, how that can...
We didn't really have a conversation. I mean, he came in and he talked to Bob and Joy, and I was there.
And you knew at this point that he is Mariah's father?
Yeah, I know.
And you guys hit it off? I hit it off?
Yeah, we get along. That's, we were cool. He said, you know, come on over, blah, blah, blah.
How long was he there or so?
Half an hour. Half an hour was 20 minutes.
Was the little boy not there
No.
at this point?
No. He was with his mother.
It's not long before Thane takes Jeff up on the invite and makes a visit to his home.
How long ago after the first visit were you up there?
A week.
About a week later?
About a week later.
Okay. And what's going on when you're up there this week later?
It's just Jeff. Jeff's alone drinking a beer, mowing his lawn.
Outside?
Outside.
And how was Jeff doing?
Jeff was doing good. Jeff was talking about his son, saying he was going to be back.
So this was about a week before this happened? Because you only lived up there 3 weeks, you said, right?
Yeah, it's all such a short proximity.
Right. So you were there, you met him, and then about a week later you go out. So that would have been a week before this whole thing happened. You were there, and he's mowing the lawn.
The detectives are really beginning to focus in on all of the details, and Thane's attitude has noticeably changed.
So you're there, and what goes on? He's mowing the lawn. He stopped mowing.
He's mowing the lawn. He stopped mowing the lawn, talked to me, invited me in, said, "Have a beer." I had a beer with him. I sat and drank a beer with him. Joy actually called. Joy knew I was there. Called me and told me, "Come back and help me with the garden."
So how did you get there?
How did I get there? I walked up.
You walked up?
Yeah, it's a short distance.
You didn't take a bike?
No.
Okay.
Though it's not quite clear yet, everything is beginning to come together.
I'm a visual guy. Can you draw the trailer for me and say where you went in that trailer? Because it's important to see where you went and all that. Can you do that for me?
He showed me.
Sure.
Yeah, right there.
Despite his claim of being a visual guy, there's much more to this seemingly simple request. Having a suspect draw something instead of simply stating it is a step in the read technique that solidifies the statements the suspect is making, so there's less confusion and more detail. This also makes it harder to retract statements later. The detectives can also use the drawing to point out specific things when they start confronting him.
So like I said, I was walking down the road and he was mowing his lawn right around here somewhere. We walked in and were talking and I met his dog. I walked over and petted his dog. I walked in and we told me to come on in, grab a beer, and then just got chairs here. We sat down here. It was a hot day. We came back outside, sat down here. That was it.
How long were you there, you think?
ad hoc.
And he had already showed you around the place before this, you said?
He showed me his house, yeah.
Before this visit?
For this visit? No, this is the visit. There were only, all right.
There was at least 2 visits, as you said. The very first time you met him, you went down and had a beer. Then you said, I asked you, it was the second or third visit that this happened, and you said it was the second visit.
I'll be straightforward because there's no reason I can't.
I appreciate that.
And this is where his story begins to change.
I do have a bicycle. I know this much.
Okay.
There are only 2 occasions I've met Jeff. The one where he comes down to the house.
Right.
And I combine those 2 occasions.
Okay.
A week later, I come back.
And you're on your bike this time?
And I'm on my bike this time. I ride my bike on the road. And I ride it on the wall. I park it right here somewhere.
It seems Thane didn't think his story through before coming in for the interrogation. It's becoming confusing, and the detectives are catching all of his inconsistencies.
You said the very first time he met you, you asked him to get a job and stuff, and he said, come on.
2 different occasions. I combined the 2 in one, just to be simple.
Oh, each time you were here. How many times you were at this house?
Once.
Once.
I've only been there once. I've been to his house once. It was just.
And this time here, he showed you around.
And he shows me around.
So the first time you said you went there after you met that very first time you met him.
I said, but really that was the week later.
Why would you do that? Why would you confuse me like that? I confuse
because it's irrelevant. Because it's.
Well, it's not really irrelevant because we got 3 people dead. So that's why it makes it very relevant.
I understand.
Especially when people are not telling the truth.
I understand, but I mean, I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Thane's unreasonable explanation is a clear red flag for deception, indicating he may be trying to hide something about this topic. But the question is why? As well, giving conflicting statements is a sign of deception. Liars often have a difficult time keeping track of what they've said, and detectives are trained to spot these inconsistencies. When a detective points out a lie to a suspect, they may go into what is called the death spiral of a lie. This is when the liar tries to provide a reason for the lie. The detective points out flaws in that explanation or how it is inconsistent with prior statements. So the person tries to defend their lie again, which adds more layers to it, and the cycle continues. Eventually, the liar may wear down because it's so stressful to keep pitching and defending their lies, when the other person clearly isn't buying it. He continues to dig a deeper hole for himself, and it's going to be difficult to climb his way out.
But you also said you only were there that one time, and it was the same.
I was only there one time. I said it was the same event.
So he stalked that fat ass.
Okay, I don't want simple anymore. All right, I want straightforward.
To be straightforward, it was 2 events that I met Jeff Ryan.
Okay.
Once where he came to Bob and Joy's, and I did not go to his house that day.
Right.
A week later, I come back to double check with him.
Bud Light, for a clean, crisp taste that's easy to enjoy.
Then there's the question about the bike.
When was the bike drive and you were at the driveway? Because we found bike prints out there. That's why when I asked you the other day if you had a bike, you said no. Today I asked you if you had a bike, you said no. Now I'm confused. Why didn't you tell me you had a bike when I asked you?
Because
there's all bike prints there.
I heard stories about biker gangs, and I didn't want to be confused with.
No, I asked you the other day pedal bike.
Yeah, pedal bike. Okay. I have a pedal bike.
Right.
Now that excuse is so unbelievable, it's almost comical. The question is, does Thane think that the investigators are buying it? As the detectives are now entering the more intense phase of the interrogation, they will be confronting Thane on inconsistencies using the evidence they have not yet revealed to him.
So you only went up that only up that drive on your bike one time?
One time.
Okay. Why are we finding a couple different trips up through there and another trip through the woods on a bike and footprints going through the woods? Why are we finding that? Are you confused and maybe you forgot a time that you were up in there with the bike? Because we got your path there, the canine and all that stuff. Did you forget that? It's okay if you did. I'm just trying to see when we get back. You just want to here to come and help in front of that. You forget that?
No. That was just, I just gone over to check out the junkyard.
Where's the junkyard?
It's right beside Bob and Joy's.
Thane is acting as if the issue is that the detective isn't understanding his story, when in reality, it's his story that's no longer holding up. It's not uncommon for someone caught in a lie to try to make it seem that the listener is the problem, as a way to deflect attention off of their lies.
You only had one beer in that house, you said?
One beer.
And it was a Budweiser bottle.
Budweiser.
And you said to me the other day, you drank it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thane doesn't realize it, but he's falling right into a trap.
What happened then, after you drank that beer?
I told you I left it on the counter in the sink. I don't recall.
You left it in the counter or in the sink?
On the counter or in the sink.
Oh, on the counter or in the sink. You smoke? Do you have any smokes in the house?
Smoke?
Cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Smoking cigarettes in the house.
In his house?
Yeah, Jeff's house.
I smoked one of his cigarettes.
Was it brown filter or white filter?
Upgrade this piece
It
of
must
shit.
have been a brown filter.
If I told you it was white, that screwed you up.
Yeah? I don't know.
You said you never met the little boy.
Picking a color for this one.
Okay. Did he want you to meet the little boy?
He never made.
Like, I can't
he
wait
never.
for
Yeah,
you
he
to come out. I want
Yeah,
you to
he was. That's what he was telling me when we were talking on the porch. He was saying, "I hope I'm gonna go get him. You know, I think he'll be back for the summer."
Though the relevance might not be clear just yet, all of these questions are important, and Thane continues to give wrong answers.
Did you ever play horseshoes down in this area?
Nope.
The horseshoe pits are right here, right? Remember that?
I
Shit, I don't care for feelings.
You didn't see the horseshoe pits?
When you say he showed you the house, did you go through the house?
Good.
Did you take it room by room, or did you just say?
Did you go down in here?
No.
So you've never ever been down that hallway? So there's no way in hell that your DNA is going to be down in this area anywhere?
No.
That's what you're
Fine,
telling me.
my last pick, the one that I knew would look good.
And there's no way in hell that your DNA is going to be back in here anywhere.
Unbeknownst to Thane, detectives are armed with some
Salam,
damning
might as well make
evidence.
it look.
They know that a fingerprint from one of the evidentiary beer bottles was matched to Thane. In addition, his DNA profile was matched to the beer bottle, as well as a cigarette collected from an ashtray at Jeff's residence. Their intention here is to increase stress, and they may have evidence that Thane was there.
Fully
It will make him lose resolve and confess.
You had a cigarette? What happened to the cigarette? You smoked it?
And it spits. This is.
But you said you got an alcohol. You told me that the car, right? But you actually smoked a cigarette. Okay? And have you ever been out in these streets up in this area?
Turn around.
So this event here, when you were inside, was about a week before this murder happened. Maybe two.
The foundation has been built, and the detective's intuition confirms that this is the precise time to implement the first step of the Reed technique, a positive confrontation. Watch as the overconfident Thane is reduced to a deer in headlights.
Never met Jason. Well, now we have a problem. All right. Inside that trailer, there's a bottle sitting there, 3 bottles. And in that trailer also, we have your DNA and fingerprints on one of the bottles. So, maybe you're mistaken for why that happened. But I want you to straighten it up now. Okay. See this picture? Yes. 3 bottles, right? This one's yours. One of these is Jason, and one of these is Jeff.
The detective.
Your home is your happy place until you come back to bad odors. Use Febreze plug-in. It alternates between 2 complementary scents to fight odors and provide freshness for up to 50 days. Try Febreze Plug.
Introducing Gemini in Gmail, AI that thoughtfully summarizes conversations and helps craft professional responses so you can stay ahead of that never-ending inbox. Make emailing the easiest part of your day with Gemini for Google Workspace.
It confronts Thane with details of the indisputable evidence they have obtained.
On Monday, before the murder, there was a party. People cleaned after the party. I talked to the ones who did it. Those bottles were not there. Tuesday, Wednesday. Your bottle's there. Your fingerprint. That matches the fingerprint of the other day. Your DNA is in the bottle. That means it's small. But I think, why is it that
I said my bottle either here or here in the sink.
So you see my phone? There's all here in Jason. The beer's half full. The beer's half full. The beer's half full. But it couldn't even if he did finish the beer. Just say the bottle was empty. He cleaned the house after the party. That bottle was food. No way in hell that bottle sat there for 2 weeks. If anything, it sat there for a couple hours.
There was a party at the house on Monday, which was thoroughly cleaned up after. The detective had essentially tried Thane with the evidence of a bottle with his DNA, because it couldn't have been
there a couple hours or a time of night. If you have a log explanation, now's the time to spit it up. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong, but we need to know why that log day, why you were in that house a couple hours before the murder.
Unfortunately for Dane, he doesn't have a logical explanation.
Well, that's not, no, we know, you just don't tell me. And it doesn't mean you don't, right? But I mean, go one step at a time. How is that normal there? Your fingerprints were left and right on that ball. And your DNA is in that liquid right there. As we're talking to you right now, we're talking to Big Bob up in Amber, Bob Joy.
It will come as no surprise when you later see that a crucial element from Bob's account is contradictory to that of Thane's.
Oh, he said he was...
Oh, what do you know?
Tell me about that ball. How
I
that
get
ball
another real spec.
You always get caught.
Where do I get that?
And every time you ever get in trouble, you say, hey, you walk into the police station, here I am, this is it. That shows me you're a man of integrity.
40K, that's
you're
it? You could have given me 175K?
And the politics, all that stuff. You seem like the type of guy that's very right, straightforward, and I just like, all right, it is what it is. You know? It is what it is. You were there just for when this accident happened. Right?
But it was clearly no accident. The level of brutality combined with the gruesome nature of the wounds will leave no room for a claim that the killings were anything but cold and calculated.
The name is okay. Yes, yes, but can you explain how, tell me what you did like that?
And with that admission, Thane's story is significantly changed. It wasn't a week or two, but rather the very day the murders occurred that Thane has admitted to being in Jeff's home. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
How many of those cases you met him? This is all. Right? He's only with him one time? Honestly? Yeah. I want the truth. Straightforward. During this event.